used to be a post office, but it's only been a federal courthouse in the last several years. The interesting thing about it is they've already decided to build a new building. This one, the new building will begin in about a year, and it will be located on the other side of Big Spring Park. It's going to spend about $100 million to build it, and it'll take 2 or 3 years. After that point, this building is a historic building. It is on the historic register, but there hasn't been any specific discussion of exactly how it will be used, or that it will be used. I assume it will. Certainly would hope so. And so also, as I'd already mentioned before, this was the site of Eric Rudolph's trial. But I'm going to come back over here first, and I want to revisit that day, because back in 2005, when Eric Rudolph appeared here, the area on this side of the street was all parking lots. And of course, today it's mixed use with apartments and lofts and shops on the bottom floor. The interesting thing about this today, and I'm going to direct you to my website after I'm going to build a new page for this stream, but I'll add all the references and I'm going to give you some pictures. Right over on that location is where all the satellite TV trucks were parked that were covering the appearance of Eric Rudolph. And it's a funny thing, because today, with nothing but a cell phone and a selfie stick, I'm actually broadcasting on a stream a better quality video than all those satellite trucks were able to deliver back then. So literally, because I'm broadcasting from Haps today, you should be able to see me on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I've got a station with a lot better quality than what you would have seen in 2005. So this is sort of a reality check. I know that live streaming is already old hat for a lot of people, but you know, the internet's really only been under development for 20 years, and yet now that's where we are. The rest of what I want to talk about, I'm going to show you a picture on my website of all those satellite trucks. This is the area where Eric Rudolph went in and out the back door. And of course, I've got some pictures about that. Eric Rudolph, you'll remember, was the Olympic Park bomber in 1996. Killed a man and injured like about 100 people. But he also bombed the nightclub and then something else. And finally, in 1998, he bombed the abortion clinic in Birmingham. And in that bombing, an off-duty police officer named Sanderson was acting as a security guard. He was killed. And one of the nurses there, Emory Lyons, was badly injured, and she's apparently an activist today. But one of the things I want to talk about is that I think I had actually met Emory Lyons when we were kids, or when I was a kid, because back in those days, in junior high school, I was carpooling with Jean Lyons, who was a crossing guard or a patrol lady for the police department. Now, her kids had different names because she was divorced or whatever. But you know, back in those days, that's when the police department was being run by the Klan. But anyhow, one day, Mike and Sharon and Gene said to me, "There's somebody we want you to meet." They said, "She'll be in town in a little while." And I don't know, she was someone that they said she was a wet blanket. Thought I might be interested in her, but she was an older girl, and she was probably in high school when I was in, 6th or 7th grade. I don't remember exactly the time. That was in the mid 70s, and her name was Emily Lyons. Well, it didn't dawn on me that that was someone, when I was here photographing the trial of Eric Rudolph, that I had actually might have met her. And I can't swear that it was her, but it certainly does fit the bill, because it was certainly her name and it was certainly at the right age. But that's about all I knew about it. I did finally meet her, and we talked about 5 minutes, and that was right. She was kind of a wet blanket, but she was going to be an RN, and I guess that's what happened. But after that, well, see, Mike and Sharon and the Bryants lived about next door. But, well, no, Sharon lived next door. Now, Sharon she was a hottie, let me tell you what. And, they finally had to hose her down. That's the way I heard it. I don't know that story. That's not my story to tell. But Mike and Sharon lived 2 houses down, and that was on the same street, see, as Art Stogner. He lived about 5 or 6 or 8 houses down. But, well, before we get there, see, that was on the same side of the street as the Sanders. And the Sanders lived on the corner. And across the street from them, maybe another 2 houses down, is where Alex Hafner lived. Now, Alex Hafner was going with a girl. He was 3 or 4 years older, named Debbie. And Debbie decided one day, now she was really hot, and she decided that she wanted to. They got married and decided that she wanted a divorce. And next thing you know, they was in a big shootout. Alex picked up a gun. The story goes he took a shotgun and blew her face off, and then he turned the gun and killed himself. That'd be kind of hard to do if you ever had a shotgun in your hands, but that was kind of how the story had gone. But so anyway, Alex lived on that side of the street, of that same street. Now, Debbie lived over on the other side of the neighborhood. She lived next to the Zimmermans. Well, I don't know if they lived exactly next door to one another, but they lived pretty close over there on the other side of the neighborhood. And so anyway, down the street from the Sanders that lived on the corner, a little further down from the Alex, was where Art Stogner lived. Now, Art Stogner, you'll remember, was the guy who several years ago, I went to school with Art Stogner. We played Little League baseball together. He was a tough guy, and he was a Little League pitcher. You couldn't hit off Art. He was throwing cannonballs, and it wasn't just me. I wasn't the best Little League player, but Art, man, he throwed a fastball, couldn't nobody touch it. Well, anyway, he lived right down the street there also, and he was something of a hellion all his life. And in spite of being a great ball player when he was younger, he didn't apparently follow that career, even though you might have thought he would. Well, he married a white girl. Well, you know what I mean. And but after that, now this has been like, I don't know, 8 or 10 or 12 years ago. That's on my website too. But Art got into a big thing with the police one night where his wife come running out the house and went to a neighbor's house that Art had wigged out and that he was fixing to try to kill her. And of course, the police was called. And the story goes that Art come out the house when the police all got there, and then Jason Moore, the police officer, was hiding behind a tree there, and Art had told him, said, Art told him, said, "Come on out from behind that tree, let me get a good shot." And other people say that if Art had meant to kill him, that he'd have done it. So I don't know. That's that part of that story. But the bottom line is, Art finally fired a shot and did some serious injury to the police officer, Jason Moore. And at that point, the police cut loose on Art. And Art ended up riddled with bullets. And I guess if there's anything good you can say about it, he definitely did not die a slow, painful death. He would have died instantly at the scene. But now his wife, I said, she lived over there too. She lived on the other side of the neighborhood, and but she didn't live close to the Zimmermans and the Lusk. She lived over close to the ballpark. And it's an interesting point there is that this whole recent thing with William Darby and Jeffrey Parker lived, I don't know quite exactly, within 2 or 3 houses of her. And of course, you know the story. Darby's been prosecuted for murder. There's a moral in that story. It's been said that, Parker did follow his training from the police department. That might be true. But, it comes down to a similar concept of private manning. If you remember back in a few years ago, was mistreating prisoners. Private Manning is the one that got that sex change after she got out of jail, and but he was mistreating prisoners because a superior had told him to. And of course, the bottom line is that your superiors don't necessarily give you the right to violate rights or to violate laws. Well, by the same token, the Huntsville Police Department has policy, but they don't make law. That's not their job. So even if he followed policy, the jury decided that he still broke the law. And of course, he killed Jeffrey Parker when he was suicidal, and he's just recently been back in the news about all the he's got some appeals and things going on, and I assume he'll have some civil appeals. He got a 25-year sentence for that, and you gotta kind of wonder if they had been as hard on him if we hadn't been through all the BLM. And I'll tell you, there are problems in the police department where they don't know the difference between following the law and being the law. They're not the law, and that's a hard thing for them to understand. But anyhow, we're going to walk on down the street today. I'm going to get a little Huntsville history in. And this is going to be a short walkabout. I'm only going to go down here by about a block. Oh, but first, I mentioned the other day that this was where Barack Obama had made an appearance, was just about across the street when he was campaigning as a candidate. And I don't know if this area is going to be open for me to get into today, but I'm going to walk back here as far as is practicable, because this is the area where he went into the Heritage Club. The Heritage Club has been closed now for several years, and it was kind of an insulting joke, I think, that Obama had gone in the back door. And let's see. This area has changed quite a bit, called Washington Park, and so it seems to be open to public traffic. They've got some artwork here and things. And anyway, this area's changed a lot. This is about where I was standing on the, in fact, I think I was standing on that wall right there when I was taking pictures of Obama. And he came in from from that direction. And of course, the lighting back here is not too good. But, and then I guess he went into a door. I'm not exactly quite sure where the door was. This area's been remodeled. Maybe it over here. Seems like it's more like back over there. I think it's been remodeled. But anyway, so this is where Barack Obama made an appearance. Washington Park, though, is, you know, that's where Obama ended up. Whether Huntsville insulted him or not, he became president. Those federales over there, they get real nervous when somebody walks around looking at them. I've had 3 different guards come out of that building today looking at me. They're confused about a lot of things. Part of the problem is that what I mentioned the other day is, you know, the thing with Eric Rudolph is he was really probably was being paraded. They said he come up here for pretrial hearings, and there's some other circumstantial evidences to suggest that there is corruption in this court, and that they are actually a part of some human trafficking situations, some human trafficking systems when they really could have, should have, probably shut things down, but they didn't. Well, anyway, I have to walk carefully here today, and I'm just going to show you a couple of these buildings, and the fellow who's not running over me. Hello, fellow that's not running over me. Oh, he was running. I don't know what this is. Somebody's got some murals up here. There's some. This building might be on the historic register, but I don't see anything for it. I think the police have, the Yarbrough building is what that is. I think the police have some of their offices in here, detectives and stuff. I'm not exactly sure. All kinds of things. Downtown Huntsville has been changing a lot. The Hudson Lofts right there is another example of the mixed use that's been coming in. And of course, the apartments change the demographics and make it possible for these shops and businesses to survive. It used to be that you'd only have maybe a half a dozen shops up around the actual square. Huntsville's downtown has always been just this small town, small southern town, the Courthouse Square literally, with a few shops around, but it's never been able to support additional retail or bars and shops other than just a core few. And that is changing. There's a lot, and it's all over the downtown area. It stretches for several streets, and it's not done yet. So I got a safe crossing here. This is the Department of Human Resources. You need to check into benefits for some reason. Housing, I think, mostly is what this one is about. Here's another area where there's construction is going on, obviously. This has not been anything but a parking lot for years. And here we're approaching the old Huntsville Times building. This is where the modern genesis, I'll call it, of Huntsville has been, really might be said to have started, because Mary Jane Taylor was trying to get Calhoun classes in over here. Finally, I don't think that happened, but let's see, I should got below the radar. Brew house. You know, beer is close to my heart. And this building was built in 1928. And you can see it's got these artistic reliefs that are been here. want to do something fun. One of the tallest buildings in Huntsville. I'm going to talk about that in another minute or two. Look again over here at construction work going on. You used to never see a crane on Huntsville skyline, and nowadays it's part of the landscape. So, you know, you talk about Huntsville's growing on the outskirts, but it's really being developed downtown too. And here again is more of the apartments. This used to be just a parking lot. Further in that direction is, let's see, that's Todd Towers. That's an apartment building. Has been there for many, many years. And, but it's one of the very few. So what's happened, this is something that you normally think of in larger cities like Birmingham or Atlanta, roughly akin to the Woolworths on the square. But of course, this is a Dollar General. It's almost unthinkable that a Dollar General is in downtown Huntsville. The good news about it is that the placement is very strategic because it's in the middle of all of this growth on this side of downtown, but immediately behind that apartment building in the distance under the red light is the Old Town District and also the Twickenham District to the right of that. So that is a residential area over there in the trees on that side. So the Times building, this has got an interesting history. The Huntsville Times, which is what it is named for, was built, Jacob Pierce, this guy who founded the Huntsville Times in 1910. There have been other newspapers in Huntsville for years, but that was always a preeminent afternoon newspaper. And the story goes that in 1928, when this building was commissioned to be built for the Huntsville Times, that the Russel Erskin was also being built. Russel Erskin has a storied history as well, but the story goes that as soon as Pierce found out that the Russel Erskin was going to be taller than the Huntsville Times building, that he put it in order to the construction people. It was work in progress and said he wants one more story on the top of this building because this building is only going to be 11 stories. And so what happened is the elevator, apparently the shaft had already been built, and when they built the next story onto the building, they were unable to make the elevator go all the way to the top. And so Jacob Pierce is jokingly referred to as the guy whose elevator doesn't go all the way to the top. Well, that's a fact. That much about the story is true. Looks like this shop didn't make it, maybe. I don't know. They've got lights on the inside. They look like they're closed right now, but so they may be open, but just closed for Monday afternoon or Tuesday afternoon. All right, well, that's all I'm going to do today. And I'm going to do some more of these live walkabouts in the weeks and months ahead. Hey, wait a minute. Let me do this. You know, I don't put much planning into these, but I still like to have a little fun, brother. And I'll try to look at the camera and figure out how to do it. I always get confused about this. There we go. Oh! Yeah, good shot there. I'm Jim Casey live on the scene at the Times building in Huntsville. Appreciate you dropping in to watch this walkabout. Go by my website. I'll be building another page that will include all of this. And always accepting contributions. They're on PayPal with crypto if you want to. Thanks for watching.